What was your role in the investigation that you became a part of, the one that happened in Berlin?
So initially, I was the closest detective to a traffic stop that was ongoing. And then eventually I was assigned to conduct an interview with Mr. Duren.
Now, can you explain how it is that you actually did become involved? You said you were the closest detective. How did you become aware of this traffic stop that was occurring?
So before that, I was aware of the death investigation for two different ways. So I received text messages for all death investigations in the state. So I was aware that there was a death investigation in Berlin in the early morning hours. I also received an Amber Alert, which added to that. When I signed on for duty that morning, it was 7:30 that morning, I signed on for duty. State Police has a computer dispatch program, and I'm able to see what's going on in the entire state. I did look to see what was going on in the Berlin case. But I was at the barracks. We monitor Keene Police Department's radio as well as Cheshire County's radio at the barracks. There was some commotion. It's in another room, so I didn't totally hear what the transmissions were. But at some point, my lieutenant popped his head into my office and said that the vehicle from the Amber Alert is at the Applebee's in Keene.
Once you heard that, what did you do?
My first reaction is, no, it's not. But after a few minutes, I decided it would probably be best, again, being the closest detective, to head over there and verify that, because I knew my phone would be ringing eventually with questions. So I drove to the Applebee's and ultimately verified that it was the correct vehicle.
Okay. And when you arrived at the Applebee's, what did you see? What was happening?
So there was a Keene police cruiser. I recognized the white Subaru from the Amber Alert, so I noticed that was parked. The Keene cruiser was not far behind it. There were several other Keene cruisers. A lot of officers and state troopers at that point, and some other people in the area. What I did was I spoke to the Keene officers, and my lieutenant was at the scene, determined that Mr. Duren was in the back of one of the cruisers, and just briefly introduced myself, expecting to have a further conversation with him later on that day.
Okay. When you say you introduced yourself, you approached Mr. Duren, and you indicated, did you introduce yourself, say who you were?
I did.
Okay. And did you ask him any questions at that point?
Basically, like, is he okay? Is there anything I can get him? Is he comfortable? And just said that he would most likely be coming to the Troop C barracks in Keene, and that we would have a lengthy conversation once he got there. What I do recall is the heat, and I felt it myself, but the heat inside the Keene cruiser was on very high, and Mr. Duren asked if I could have the Keene officer adjust that, which they did.
Okay.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit pause. We're going to go back in just a moment. Also, letting you know we've surpassed the 5-hour mark of jury deliberations in the Irish firefighter rape case. Terence Crosby, and a citizen of Dublin, Ireland, is the accused. He's being held on a $100,000 bond in the jail. Will he go free, or will he stay locked up? All depends on who this jury believes. His accuser is a 29-year-old attorney who came forward immediately after the incident in question.
Just walking around the room, gathering her clothes and rummaging, looking for her belongings.
And did you look at her?
We're out. I couldn't, but I didn't try anyway.
Did you touch her?
I didn't.
Did you have any physical contact with her?
I didn't.
Did you rape?
I absolutely did not.
An Amber Alert triggered by a deadly shooting and 2 girls taken by their father.
But did Dustin Duren shoot the mother of his children in self-defense?
The Amber Alert murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
closing arguments with Vinnie Politan tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. Let's go back to New Hampshire. We're in the Amber Alert murder trial. We've got a new witness up on the stand, a police witness. Let's pick up where we left off.
Oh, you have looked several times towards a location in the courtroom when you say the name Mr. Duren or Duren. Do you see Mr. Duren, the person that you introduced yourself to that day here in this courtroom?
I do.
Could you, by pointing him out and or identifying him by an article of clothing that he's currently wearing, please let us know where he is?
Sure. He's seated right here almost directly in front of me wearing a gray suit. We'll call it a purple shirt and a paisley purple tie.
Your Honor, identifying the defendant for the record.
The record shall so reflect.
Now, when you see the defendant here today in court, does he appear to you to be does he look the same as he did when you first met him?
He's got a haircut, and his beard is a little shorter, but he does look the same.
Showing you what is marked for identification purposes is State's Exhibit 18 for this case. Can you take a look at that and let me know if you recognize it?
I do.
What is it?
It's a photograph of Mr. Duren.
Okay, and does that photograph clearly and accurately show Mr. Duren at the time that you met him on March the 1st of 2024?
Yes.
So at this time, the state moves to strike the identification and admit State's Exhibit 18 is full.
No objection.
The ID shall be stricken and Exhibit 18 shall be considered a full exhibit.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Certainly.
We're replacing, let me plug in first. Currently publishing State's Exhibit 18 on the screen. That's how Mr. Duren appeared when you first encountered him?
Yes. Yes.
Now, you've described to us your first interaction with the defendant, how you introduced yourself to him and asked to get the heat turned down for him. Why is it that you went out to the scene and introduced yourself to him?
I would describe it as building rapport. Again, just making sure he was comfortable, and when we did get a chance to sit down and talk, I did essentially the same thing, but just make sure he's comfortable. If he needed to eat, we would get him some food. If he wanted something to drink, we would get him something to drink.
At the time that you met him at the Applebee's parking lot when he was in that cruiser, did you ask if he wanted any food?
I believe so.
Okay. Did at that time he ask for any?
For food, no.
Okay. How about for anything else?
I believe I told him that I make a good, strong cup of coffee, and we had a discussion about that, and eventually he did accept a cup of coffee.
Did you later make arrangements for him to be interviewed at Troop C?
Yes.
Can you describe for us the location inside of Troop C where that interview occurred?
So there's several entrances to Troop C, which had been renovated not long before this incident. There, to the far left of the building, there is a garage door, and just to the right of that is an entrance. Just inside that entrance to the right is an interview room.
When you say an interview room, can you describe for us sort of how large that is? What's in there?
So it's probably a 9-by-8 size room. It just has a round table with 3 chairs in one corner. In the opposite corner, it has a desk with an office chair and then a separate chair.
When you sat down to interview the defendant, Mr. Duren, who else was present, if anyone?
So Detective Horton, who works with me, eventually was present in the room as well.
This interview that you conducted of the defendant, Mr. Duren, was that audio and video recorded?
Yes.
Can you describe the manner in which that occurred?
Sure. So again, the barracks is newly renovated. We do not have an ideal recording system. So in this particular case, an audio recorder, just a handheld audio recorder, was placed in the room, and then I used my state-issued cell phone to video record the interview.
Was the defendant or did the defendant consent to this interview being recorded?
He did.
Now, with respect to the interview itself, did you have any interruptions with respect to the recording?
One interruption was it's recording on my state cell or my cell phone. Not long into the interview, the cancellation of the Amber Alert, which is that loud, annoying sound that the cancellation of that came through the phone, which turned off the video recording.
Okay. So there may be a snag or a delay when the video is playing. Is
Yes.
that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Now, have you reviewed the video and audio recording of this interview that you conducted with the defendant in preparation for your testimony today?
Yes,
Did you also review a copy of the transcript of that recording?
I did.
Showing you what's marked now for identification purposes only as State's Exhibit 27. Can you just take a quick look through that and let me know if you recognize it?
I do.
Okay, what is that?
This is a transcript of the audio recording.
Now, with respect to the transcript and the audio recording, did you review those together in order to determine if they were fully accurate?
I did.
Okay, and can you tell us if there are any errors in the transcription?
There are some.
How would you classify those errors?
So there are occasions where I'm speaking, but the text is attributed to Detective Horton. There are also some other where the audio might not be totally perfect. For example, I say the word Keene, referring to Keene Police or the city of Keene, and the transcription says Keith. There's one other that I can think of where we had a conversation about racking around in a pistol, and it says whack.
More testimony coming up in the Amber Alert murder trial, and we continue on that verdict watch in Boston, Massachusetts, in the Irish firefighter rape case. We thank you for watching Court TV Live on this Thursday morning.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ted Rollins. Good to be with you on a Thursday. Whoa. Our eyes are in a couple courtrooms. You can see the jury is still deliberating 5 hours, 22 minutes in the case in Boston. We're watching that. And we're also in New Hampshire for the Amber Alert murder trial. 38-year-old Dustin Duren claiming self-defense in the shooting death of his longtime girlfriend, Caitlyn Naffziger. Duren says that he was forced to shoot her in the head and flee with their 2 young daughters because he was scared that she was going to take the kids to Minnesota even though she didn't have a car or any money or anything else. Let's go back to the courtroom now where the jury is hearing from a detective who interviewed Duren after his arrest.
So like some word changes, but the video and audio is accurate to what was said. Is
Yes.
that fair to say? Okay. Now, after you were in the room and you had, and I'm going to come grab that for you while I ask you the question, but after you were in the room and you had your cell phone set up and the recording was going, did you talk to the defendant about his Miranda rights?
I did.
And can you explain for us what Miranda rights are?
So it's his rights to his right to speak to an attorney, his right to answer questions, his right to not answer questions, and just that he could stop answering questions at any time.
Fair to say that advisement we probably all heard on TV and Law and Order and all those other shows that just are everywhere?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you conducted that procedure here, is it fair to say that you utilized a form?
I did.
Is that customary?
Yes. Doesn't have to be a form, but that's what I use.
Sergeant McLaughlin, I'm showing you what I've marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 25. Do you recognize that form?
I do.
What is it?
It's a State Police DSSP 105, New Hampshire State Police DSSP 105 form, which is a Miranda rights form.
Now, when you say DSSP 105, does every form within state police sort of have a number assigned to it?
It does.
And that's where the DSSP 105 is?
Yes.
Okay. But this is a form that you utilize to go over Miranda?
Yes.
In this particular form, do you recognize it in terms of being the Miranda form or waiver form that you went over with this defendant, Mr. Duren?
I do.
And is that a fair and accurate copy of the form as you completed it with Mr. Duren?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to strike the identification on States 25 and admit it into evidence as full.
No objection.
The ID may be stricken with respect to Exhibit 25, and it shall be considered a full exhibit.
Can you describe the process, and if you need the form back, let me know, but can you describe the process by which you provided Miranda to the defendant?
So I read each line. You know, for example, line 1 is you have the right to remain silent. Typically, I'll ask, in this case, I asked Mr. Duren, do you understand that right? He would say yes. I put a little check mark next to that, line 1. I would read line 2 and same thing. Then I do add a little bit where I explain if you start answering questions and you decide for any reason you don't like a question or you don't want to answer a question, we can skip a question and move on, which he said he understood. And then I asked him to, so I write yes next to, do you understand these rights? And I asked him to initial that after I handed the form to him. And then I asked the second question, which is, understanding these rights, are you willing to answer questions? He said yes. I wrote yes, asked him to initial that, and then sign the form, and then Detective Horton signed the form as a witness to Mr. Duren signing.
Now, by signing the form, is that the defendant indicating that he understood his rights as they were read to him and that he was willing to speak with you?
Yes.
Now, in addition to signing, and without telling us what, if anything, was said, did the defendant make statements to you during this interview that confirmed that he understood his rights?
Yes.
After the Miranda process, did you continue speaking with this defendant?
I did.
Can you describe the manner in which this interview was conducted in terms of interview versus interrogation and how it began?
So Mr. Duren was, I formed the opinion shortly after meeting him at inside the King Cruiser that he was ready to talk to someone about what had happened. I would describe Mr. Duren as being very talkative that morning or afternoon. And he actually had some questions initially as well. And I had some questions that I was asked to ask about the children. So we started the conversation with basically answering Mr. Duren's questions.
Now, during the course of this interview, was the defendant again offered food and drink?
He had water and coffee before we started the interview, and I think we got him a sandwich after we finished.
If he had asked for a sandwich earlier, would you have provided that?
Yes.
Was he allowed to take breaks or use the bathroom?
Yes. Yes and no, because he had used the bathroom before, and then we kind of gave him the opportunity. We asked about using the bathroom before we concluded, and Mr. Duren actually decided, let's get through the questions and then use the bathroom.
During this interview, while you were speaking with Mr. Duren, what kind of tone of voice did you use?
Pretty much what I'm using right now. Just normal, my normal self.
And what about Detective Horton? What kind of voice did he use?
Detective Horton is a little louder in general. He just speaks very loudly, but his normal voice.
Did anybody yell or scream at the defendant?
No.
Did at any point you use aggressive body language or aggressive gestures?
I don't believe so, no.
At any point was your service weapon involved?
No.
Now, who spoke more during this conversation, yourself or the defendant?
The defendant.
And who led the conversation, yourself or the defendant?
The defendant, but I tried very hard not to interrupt, but there were times where we had to kind of get the conversation back on track.
Now, following the interview of the defendant, was there a search warrant process that was conducted?
Yes.
Can you explain the purpose of that process?
So it's a search warrant, we call it a body warrant, so there's a collection of a number of evidence. The photo that is still on the screen, so there's a number of photographs taken to document injuries or the lack of injuries. Oops, I guess I'm not supposed to talk about that.
No, it's all right.
So we take some photos to document injuries, non-injuries, any evidence that might be on Mr. Duren at the time. There's swabs for different things. So a DNA swab would be basically a Q-tip that goes inside of his mouth to collect cells from inside of his cheek. There would be typically gunshot residue swab to his hands. There would be fingerprints, sometimes a collection of fingernails, sometimes a collection of hair, and essentially the collection of his clothing.
Is that customary to every homicide investigation that you've worked?
Yes.
Now, in addition to collecting items from his physical person, were items of his personal property recovered?
I believe there were some items from the vehicle and some items from his person. I believe his wallet was one of those things.
Okay. Was his clothing also recovered?
His clothing was collected, yes.
And was a cellular phone recovered?
I believe so.
Okay. You indicated that his wallet and identification cards were recovered?
Yes.
Sergeant McLaughlin, I'm showing you what is marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 31 in this case. Do you recognize what that is?
I do.
What is it?
It's a temporary New Hampshire driver's license.
Okay, is that a particular person's driver's license?
It's Mr. Duren's.
Okay, and was that recovered from him during this search process?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would seek to strike the ID and admit State's Exhibit 31 into evidence.
No objection.
The ID may be stricken with respect to Exhibit 31. It shall be considered a full exhibit.
Permission to publish.
Certainly.
Sergeant McLaughlin, I've placed State's Exhibit 31 up on the screen. You still have a copy with you. You also have a screen to look at. Does...
Maybe Rich.
Sidebar there, they're setting up the interview, the eventual interview that the jury will listen to of the defendants. Let's bring in our guest for the hour from New York. Trial attorney Cannon Kearney's with us. Happy Thursday to you, Cannon. What's your take on this case and this defense that somehow he felt as though he was in danger and he was protecting his kids from going back to Minnesota with their mother?
Well, happy Thursday, Ted. Always happy to be here. What I'm taking from this case is, unfortunately, first and foremost, my heart goes to the children of the victim and the defendant. I mean, essentially, they saw their mother get killed, and then they saw their father get arrested while they were at Applebee's. So that couldn't have been a great day for anybody, specifically children. But in speaking about the children, it seems that their testimony or what they witness is going to be the defendant's biggest ace in the hole. I mean, essentially, either through some form of Lincoln hearing or bringing them on the actual stand, we're going to need to know what they saw in order for the jury to have an understanding of why it is he felt that he had to defend his children. So, you know, whether that's going to be testimony that mom physically held me down or mom was threatening to harm me when she took us back to Minnesota or whatever it may be, it's going to have to rise to a level that a reasonable person would say that they would kill you over that. So essentially, that's going to be that's what I see for the defense. That's what's going to be their ace in the hole. And if the children say something differently, more likely than not, he will be convicted of second-degree murder.
Yeah, we'll see to what degree they participate in the proceedings. You know, the little one was in a car seat at the time, probably doesn't have any memory of it. And he likely, in a self-defense case, you usually take the stand, but we're going to be listening to this interview. Hopefully the audio is good. that sometimes is good enough, right? For a defendant, don't take the stand because the jury's already heard from you moments after you were arrested in a police custody.
Agreed. It just depends if we just heard from the officer that it appeared that the defendant was in charge of the conversation, that he was the one that was pushing it. So if the jury hears testimony or the defendant affirming what happened and it's very clear to them, then there's no need to put him back on the stand, especially someone who you're claiming may have some form of mental or therapeutic issue. So you may not want to put him on the stand if it's clear from the investigation report or video that everything that he's going to say anyway.
Yeah, he gets his story out is the key, in his version of events. Let's get a break. Before we head to break, a quick programming note. Court TV's award-winning series Interview with a Killer, back for an all-new season. In his first ever interview, notorious killer Adam Williams comes clean about the shocking double murder and intentional in the international manhunt that captured the nation. Investigative journalist David Scott is back for another season. He sits down with Williams, who claims he's now been found by Christ behind bars. You don't want to miss this 2-hour premiere this Saturday, 8 p.m. right here on Court TV.
I've committed so many horrific acts over and over and over.
Do you think you deserve to die for murdering those innocent people?
You tell me. I wish more than anything, David, that I would have done something other than the things I've done in my life.
Are you really a changed man, or is this some kind of stunt?
Interview with a Killer, 2-hour season premiere, Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific, only on Court TV.
We'll head back to court in just a minute. First, here's a quick look at the other cases we're tracking today here on Court TV. In Massachusetts, a jury has been deliberating now for 5 hours, 40 minutes, and counting in the Irish firefighter rape trial for Terrence Crosby. He, of course, is accused of raping a woman over St. Patrick's Day weekend last year. We'll monitor that and get you to the courtroom if there's a verdict or question. In Florida, day 2 of testimony underway for a young woman accused of gunning down local rapper Julio Fulio as part of an ongoing gang war. We'll monitor both trials throughout the day, but right now, let's head back to New Hampshire for more of the Amber Alert murder trial for Dustin Duren. Let's pick it up where we left off with this detective who interviewed the defendant.
Sergeant McLaughlin,
Excuse me, all set, Counsel?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sergeant McLaughlin, with respect to State's Exhibit 31, which is on the screen, on all the screens, as well as in front of you, does that driver's license indicate what Mr. Duren's height and weight are?
It does.
And what were those?
His height is 5'10", and his weight is 190 pounds.
Sergeant McLaughlin, before we publish or talk about further or show or ask to admit the recording of the interview that you conducted, I have a few questions for you. During the time that the defendant was speaking with you, did he admit to you that he had shot and killed Caitlyn Naffziger?
Yes.
Did he tell you what hand he had used to fire the gun?
Yes.
Which hand?
His right hand.
Did you ask the defendant whether Caitlyn was threatening to harm either him or their daughter at the time that he shot?
Yes.
What did he say?
No.
Did the defendant explain to you whether his action in shooting Caitlyn was done deliberately?
He said it was deliberate, yes.
Is it fair to say that the defendant told you that Caitlyn had crossed a line?
Yes.
Did he describe where Caitlyn was physically located when he shot her?
Yes.
What did he say?
She was seated on a couch.
Did he tell you where on her body he had shot Caitlyn Naffziger?
Yes,
What did he say?
her head.
Sergeant McLaughlin, did he describe to you the path of travel that the bullet took?
Yes.
If you recall, what did he say?
In one side and out the other, essentially.
Is it fair to say that he said it went straight through?
Yes.
Did the defendant tell you where his daughter Elowen was physically located when he fired the shot that killed Caitlyn Naffziger?
Yes.
Where was Elowen located?
He had pulled Elowen away from Caitlyn and was holding her.
So at the time that the defendant fired the shot, he was holding Elowen.
Yes, my understanding.
Did he describe how Elowen reacted to the gunshot?
He described trying to shield her from seeing anything, and that Elowen kind of put her hands over her ears and said, ouch loud, or something loud.
Did the defendant tell you what his mindset was after he shot and killed Caitlyn?
He did.
What did he say?
He said that he knew that he was screwed, and that he performed well in stressful situations, and then he talked about wanting to spend time with the kids before he wanted to turn himself in or have to be at the police station.
And very clear, did the defendant turn himself in this instance?
He did not.
Sergeant McLaughlin, I'm showing you what is marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits 26A and B. Can you take a look at those items?
Yes.
Do you recognize them?
I do.
What are they?
They are video recordings of the interview with Mr. Duren.
And have you reviewed these specific discs, 26A and B?
I have.
And do they contain the full contents of the interview?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would ask to strike the ID as to these items and admit them as full.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.